Norway found oil in 1969. On Christmas Eve, a drilling crew in the North Sea hit what would become the Ekofisk field, one of the largest offshore deposits ever discovered. Within a decade, Norway went from a modest fishing economy to one of the richest nations in Europe. But here's what makes Norway different from every other country that found oil. They never spent it. 50 years later, Norway sits on a sovereign wealth fund worth roughly $1.7 trillion. That's trillion with a T, the single largest fund of its kind on Earth. It owns about 1.5% of every publicly listed company in the world. Divided across 5.5 million citizens, that works out to roughly $300,000 per person, including newborns. No other oil-producing country has anything close. Most of them went broke. Norway's GDP is around $480 billion, roughly the size of Belgium. Oil and gas make up about 20% of GDP and close to 50% of exports. But only 1 in 20 Norwegians works in oil. The rest of the wealth flows from the fund itself. And that fund runs on rules so strict most governments would never agree to them. 3 rules, none complicated. Rule 1. Every dollar of oil revenue goes directly into the fund, not into the budget, not into subsidies, not into roads or hospitals, into the fund. Rule 2. The fund invests exclusively outside Norway. Norwegian stocks, bonds, real estate, none of it. The fund buys global equities, global fixed income, and global property. Roughly 70% equities, 27% bonds, 3% real estate. This prevents the money from overheating the domestic economy. Rule 3. The government may spend only the expected real return, roughly 3% a year, not 3% of oil revenue, 3% of the fund's total value. If the fund earns more, the surplus stays inside. If it earns less, the government gets less. That's the entire system. Now here's why this matters. There is a pattern in economics so well documented it has its own name. The resource curse. More than 40 countries between 1970 and 2010 discovered natural resources and ended up poorer than before. The chain is always the same. Country finds oil. Currency strengthens. Manufacturing dies. Government spends the windfall. When prices fall, the economy collapses. Venezuela had more proven reserves than Saudi Arabia. By 2020, its GDP had fallen roughly 75% from peak. Nigeria is the largest oil producer in Africa. About 40% of its people live below the poverty line. Algeria created its own sovereign fund in 2000, modeled on Norway. By 2015, the government had spent nearly 70% of it on fuel subsidies and wages. Norway broke the curse at one point in the chain. It refused to spend. The decision was not automatic. In 1990, Norway's parliament passed the Government Petroleum Fund Act, later renamed the Government Pension Fund Global. Hermod Skanland, then governor of the central bank, argued for strict separation between oil money and the operating budget. The first transfer into the fund didn't happen until 1996. For 6 years, the fund existed as a law with no money in it. By 2020, it had crossed $1.3 trillion. By 2024, $1.7 trillion. The fund is managed by NBIM, Norges Bank Investment Management. Roughly 600 people in Oslo managing more wealth per employee than any institution in history. The deeper idea is not about oil. It is about restraint as national strategy. A country is not rich because of what it owns under the ground. A country is rich because of what it refuses to do with what it owns. This principle works at every scale. In personal finance, compound interest only works if you leave the principal untouched. In corporate strategy, companies that hoard cash through booms survive busts. Norway did the same, at the scale of a nation. But here is the question nobody can answer. Norway has held the line for over 50 years. No government has broken the rule. Not during the 2008 crisis, not during the pandemic. But the real test of a fiscal rule is not the last 50 years. It is the next emergency. What happens when oil revenues begin their permanent decline? What happens when the pressure to spend becomes existential? Every other country that tried this rule broke it when something urgent came along. Norway hasn't. Yet. Every week, another country, another mechanism, another number that explains more than the headline ever did. Subscribe to World Money. The next one might be the country you thought you understood.